hoping that we've got a few more people going to join us, so we'll give everybody just a moment to tune in. We've got a nice full agenda this morning. Probably thinking we've got enough to keep us busy till about 12:30, depending on how much discussion we've got going on. But we've got some new things to share, so we're very excited to be able to do that this morning. Let's hope that everybody's well and not too COVID ravished. How are we doing today, Rob?
Personally, unscathed. Yeah, we've got a few students, but we'll get through it. No one too ill, so that's the main thing.
That's a good thing. A few staff off.
Yeah,
but like everybody else, limping through to half term, which for us is another week. I know some are off next week, so enjoy that, and hopefully the weather will stay as nice for you next week. And it'll keep going till we're off, or maybe that's when it's going to start to rain. Who knows? Okay, we're getting a few more coming to join. Hopefully everybody's got a chance to make a cup of tea or coffee or a strong gin or whatever it is you take at this time of the morning, and then we'll get underway in just a few minutes. Oh yes, no, good list building up there. So we'll just hang on a tick. We're going to be recording today's workshop for those of you who might want to share this with colleagues later on, and we'll talk about where we're putting all of this stuff in a moment, because actually we're building up quite an archive of different bits of film footage, of workshops and animations, and we're going to show you some animations this morning. Okay, well, it's according to we're only 11:02. We've got a clock on the wall up there, which is saying it's nearly 5 past. And I've got to keep remembering not to look at the computer that's on the chair underneath where the filming bit is, because Dean keeps saying it looks like you're not interested, you're not paying attention. So apologies if I keep doing that by accident. What it does allow me to do, if I look at the computer down there, I can see how many people are joining the meeting. That's what that's there for. Highly distracting.
Just look at the light.
Look at the light. Look at Dean's smiling face behind the light. That's all we need to do today. Okay, well, let's make a start, I think, because I know everybody's really busy and anybody else can catch up. So welcome, hurrah! We're back on air. Hopefully, we might be live soon enough, and we'll talk about that at the end of the meeting. But for today, we're online again. You will see we've got a slightly different lineup, and we've delved into the transfer market. The January window is open.
That's looking much better.
Yeah. Yes, he's been to have a bit of work done. So I'm Kieran. For those of you who are joining for the first time, I'm Chief Exec at Swaycliffe, which is a residential and day school for boys with autism, working with about 20 different local authorities. And we also run a range of outreach services, the QoL network being one of them. To my left, who are you, sir?
I am Robert Lee. I'm the Vice Principal, and I'm sort of involved in everything and anything. So I've got, involved in a bit of the IT for this, a bit of the target setting, and I've got a history with sort of social care and working in residential schools. Okay,
Rob's only able to join us for about the first half hour this morning. So if we've got any questions of a technical nature, for goodness sake, ask them within the first half hour.
So I've got to go and shout at some builders.
Okay, yeah. And a lot of that will relate to one of our early items about target setting and reporting. Okay, on my right, Poppy, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm not Rob Piner. My name is Poppy Grimes, and I'm a new research associate at Swaycliffe, and I'm looking at the QoL framework and whole school data analysis and how we can improve the implementation into curriculum planning.
Fantastic. Okay, and one of the things Poppy's going to take us through some of the work that she's been involved in, partly just to give you a sense of what we're doing here, but also how we can help you to do similar projects. That's what the network's about. How can we set the things up for you that we're doing here So it's not just us doing all the stuff. Actually, the whole point is that we help you to manage your own QoL implementation in a way that's beneficial to you. Okay, as usual, on the scoreboard behind, we've got Dean mastering all the technology, all on his own today.
Yeah.
And let's be generous, Dean's not been well, he's had COVID, he's back in the game though. Well done, Dean. What a stalwart. Okay, let's have a look. Poppy, have we got the agenda for this morning?
Yes.
So you see I've delegated that task to Poppy because I'm not to be trusted with it. So we've got a few items on the agenda this morning, which we'll run through for you. So we're going to be looking at, first of all, some animations and talk to you about the YouTube channel that we have set up, and there's some animations in there. Rob, just a quick word on the animations. There's quite a lot of stuff in that YouTube channel, isn't there? We're going to keep adding.
Yes, so we've set the YouTube channel up probably about 20 years after everyone else, but we've got it now, and we're putting all of the videos, animations, information for students, information for QoL, so there'll be a link sent out so you can rummage around that and have a look and steal anything you want. We'll talk a little bit more about the animations and how, if they're of interest to you, we can help you kind of get those branded. Yes. Or joint branded. We think they're great, but we'll let you decide.
We would, though, wouldn't we?
We would. Yeah. And the animations have come out of a piece of work where we're trying to make our information and policies more accessible. So they're animated, and the key points are taken out for young people to understand about the fire policy, safeguarding. The next step is to get them read out, so there are a number of options to be able to kind of get this information if sort of reading's not your thing.
Brilliant. Okay, so we're going to do that. We're going to look at reports. It's pretty much the agenda that we sent out with a few little extras thrown in for good measure. Okay, so let's get straight to business. And so here's the YouTube channel. There's the link there. We'll make sure that everybody gets that information. And we're recording this morning's workshop, so anybody will be able to see that one as well. So, as Rob says, we've done 3 little animations. One of the points we're trying to do is to show how all our school policies really should link back to QoL, because everything that we do in school has a QoL flavour to it. Otherwise, we might be questioning why on earth are we doing it. So they're very short, these animations. We thought we've got 3. We're going to run through them. So sit back, enjoy, get your popcorn out. We're going to show you these 3 animations. We'll take any questions afterwards. But as Rob said, the reason for showing you these is we've had them made for us, but there will be possibilities to have them branded with your information in, and we're just figuring out how we can do that. Poppy, we're ready to roll with the first one, which is about safeguarding.
At Swaycliffe, our most important job is to keep you safe and help you do that for yourself. In fact, it's the law. Some dangers are obvious and you'll know that they are wrong, but others are harder to spot. Some things may seem good, but in actual fact, they're not. We want you to feel safe and help you cope in the community, online, physically, and emotionally. We are here to help you cope. If you're worried about anything or someone else, we want you to talk to your key worker or any member of staff in school. To get the best help, we may need to talk to your parents or someone outside the school, like the Oxfordshire Safeguarding Team. It's important that you know we can't keep secrets, but we'll only tell those who need to know, and we'll always let you know what is happening. Remember, we can't read your mind, so it's important to talk to someone. If you feel like you can't speak to someone at school, then you can always call Childline, the Oxfordshire Safeguarding Team, Ofsted, or even the police. You can find these numbers all over the school and at the end of the video. Remember, it's all our responsibility to keep you safe.
Safe, and as you can see, yes, we can.
To check everyone could hear that, hear the sound of the animation, so I can put a thumbs up so we can.
Joe, could you hear that okay? Yes,
Right,
brilliant.
good.
Okay, thanks all. Sorry about the technical issues. We'll try again in a minute. But again, one of the things from that one is obviously the role of key workers in safeguarding and the role of key workers within our QoL framework. Okay, we've got two more quick ones to do for you, and then we'll get into the body of the meeting. Let's see how we go this time. So that one was about safeguarding. The next one is about fire safety. Okay, let's have a go.
We want to keep you safe at all times. We don't want you to worry, but it is important to know that one of the dangers we all need to know about at home, at school, or in any building is fire. Fires don't happen very often, but if they do, they can be dangerous and spread quickly. This is why we have a lot of fire equipment around the school and alarms to help keep us safe. It is very important that you don't play or misuse any of it. Otherwise, it might not work when we need it. We also have a fire drill or practice every half term, so we all know what to do if there is a real fire. Every time you hear the fire alarm, it is important to take it seriously, as you won't know if it's a practice or a real fire. But either way, there is no need to panic. It doesn't matter where you are at the time or what you are doing, whether you are eating, at lessons, playing football, on the computer, or even in bed. If there is a fire practice or a real fire, the staff will help you to leave the building safely. So always listen to them. Stay calm and quiet so you know what to do. Please follow these 4 rules. Leave the building straight away and do not stop to pick up your belongings. Walk, don't run. Go to the fire assembly point on the grass outside reception unless staff tell you otherwise. Do not go back into any buildings unless staff say it is safe to do so. Staff will be waiting outside for you and wearing brightly coloured jackets so you can see them. Sometimes the fire brigade will also come to help and check we're doing things properly. Remember, it's all our responsibility to keep you safe. At Swaycliffe, we want to keep you safe, find out what makes you happy, and what we can do to improve your quality of life now and in the future. It's our job at school to make this happen. Every student has a key worker who wants to know all about you. You can talk to them about anything you like. To make sure you have time to chat to your key worker, you'll have a weekly key working session on your timetable, but you can always find other times to chat as well. You can talk about the sorts of things you enjoy doing at school and at home, and what we can do to help you. You can also talk about what you'd like to be in the future, like a postman, a train driver, a doctor, an astronaut, an IT technician, a singer, or a footballer. or anything else you think you'll be good at and enjoy. Your key worker can help you with things like joining clubs, going on visits, organising work experience, and being introduced to people who like the same things as you. You might want to tell them about things you find difficult, like getting anxious, understanding what people mean, making friends, sensory things, staying calm, learning in class and becoming more independent. Your key worker can make sure the school can help you. In school, you'll find posters to show you how this works and how we can help you in 4 main areas. Communication, making friends, understanding what people mean, self-management, not getting anxious and sensory issues, independence, looking after yourself using public transport, and achievement, learning in class, passing exams. As well as your weekly session with your key worker, they will help you to complete a questionnaire at the end of each term, so you can tell us what you'd like help with and what you are enjoying. This will help your key worker make a plan of what we're going to do during the next term. Your key worker will also talk to your family each week and help them to fill in a questionnaire as well. There might be things we can do to help make life easier or better for everyone at home. Remember, we are all here to help keep you safe, find out what makes you happy, and improve your quality of life. And we can do this best if we all keep talking to each other.
We're ready to go. Hopefully that was a little bit of light entertainment for everybody. And if anybody is interested in having those videos, animations, personalised for your school, please just ping us an email and we can have a think about what we might be able to do to help that. Anything else we need to say about animations, Rob? Or
No, they're the first 3. We've got a few other policies that are the kind of most student focused and that we're going to be working on. So we're going to be doing something for bullying, something for online safety, medical. So yeah, if it's something that's of interest and you think might suit your student population, do give us a call and we can talk about how to do the voiceover slightly differently or include your school name, logo and things. So yeah.
And just a reminder that there is a chat function here, so if you've got any questions or you want to send any information through, you can put that in the chat as well, and we'll gather all that out. Okay, having had a quick look at that, we wanted to talk about target setting and reporting around QoL, and a couple of reasons for this, because we, let's be really, always want to be really honest, all of these QoL processes have their wrinkles here, and we're always trying to improve things here. And if we can get it right here, then that might help you avoid some of the pitfalls we've got bogged down in. So one of the things that we were having a problem with was trying to get the timeline right at the end of term for giving out the questionnaires or surveys, getting it back in, looking at the target setting process, looking at the quality assurance around the target setting process, and getting all of that wrapped up so that it could go home with end of term reports. And then thinking about how the information we're putting in those end of term reports can link with an annual review document, and then we're not asking people to duplicate the work. So that was a nice little task for Poppy as soon as she arrived here. So she's going to tell us a little bit about the work that she's been doing around this. And then Rob's going to just say a bit about the development side of things with Blue Planet. And then we'll open the floodgates to any questions that might come through around that. Okay, Poppy, it's over with you.
Okay, so this is our kind of 2-week end of term, 2-week strategy for doing our targets before the Easter holidays. So on the 25th of March, we'll send out our student surveys. These will be done in the key working sessions, and our key workers will kind of guide students through how to answer these or help them kind of reflect on how they've been feeling over the past term. And then in the following week, the key worker will evaluate the targets from the previous term, which will be put into the reports, as well as setting 3 new SMART targets for the students to work on for the following term. These will be agreed with parents and the line manager, and then passed on to the QoL assurance team to make sure that all the targets kind of meet the SMART criteria. And then simultaneously, I'll be looking at the data for the whole school, and kind of identifying alongside with the family data, maybe weak spots or areas where there are quite like common struggles across the whole school, and take this to the SLT so we can kind of change the curriculum for the next term to really address these issues. These will be put into our newsletters that get sent out to families and QoL network, and then hopefully by just before the end of term, all of this will be uploaded into the individual student reports, ready to be sent out to parents.
Fantastic. So that little map there we can send out for people to look at. Remembering as well, I mean, that's a working with students bit. There's the family bit as well, and we're trying to get better. One of our targets as an organisation is to get better at coordinating the student and family information for that target setting process. It's not without its tricky bits, you know, trying to coordinate. You know, we know that families have busy lives and they've got other pressures, so we do the best we can under the circumstances, and have to think quite creatively about how do we help families to be able to be as engaged in this target setting process as possible. It's not going to be 100%, and I think we've always got to be realistic about that. But the intent is there, the opportunity is there, and we will keep doing what we can to facilitate that process. Hopefully, once the COVID issues are behind us, that will help us to maybe invite people into school to do some of that, if that's an option. Anything else you want to say about that bit, Poppy? But what does it look like, some of this data, once we've started to...
So in terms of what it looks like, the left image on the left is kind of what the key workers will see. So for their individual students and their families, they have something called a matrix report, and they can set their SMART targets for each term, and these will be highlighted in blue. And then from these, the targets can be extracted and put into end of term reports and annual reviews. And this will include a reflection on last term's target, and then also the one for the new term as well.
So if I've got this right, Poppy, each of those lines going, or those rows, are subsequent QoL survey results showing different responses from the students. So each response being an evaluation of the previous term from the student. There's a little black box you can see there with a T in it. And that's where we can set the targets and the strategies and think about what that's going to look like in terms of what you see on the ground. And where they've gone blue, that's where a target's actually been set. So it's easy to pinpoint out of those 48 questions, these are our 3 target areas. Mm-hmm. That data, key workers don't have to do that analysis themselves. That's done by the software. And so we wouldn't want anybody to be getting anxious about that. And we can talk a little bit more about how that data analysis takes place. And this is where Rob might be able to help us think about, you know, what can we do to make that as easy as possible for you? But also, how do we lift the targets from those blue boxes into end of term reports and annual review reports? Rob, do you want to just say a little bit about what we're doing around that?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to kind of reverse up a little bit. The targets that we're talking about here are, we're not doing anything else for the students. Those are their EACP targets or things that we pulled out from the quality of life. That is our vehicle for setting targets. It might be for students that looked after, or that is our main place. So we're not doing anything else behind the scenes. We are sort of actively using this now. And it's great. I mean, it fits in perfectly with the quality of life surveys and the students evaluating themselves, because it shows that there's student voice on that as well. It's not just the staff normally thinking of targets, putting them down, and you all know that they have to be done. In terms of the way that it looks, I suppose we're in a phase now where we're being driven by real life, what the staff on the ground need to be able to do this, hence why we're making some adjustments to try and collect that data earlier so that they've got time to see the data, set the targets, and then we can evaluate it in a timely way. Otherwise, it felt a little bit out of sync. So it really is getting quite embedded now with the staff driving some of the developments that we're making. When we kind of got it to a point, but then our staff that are actually working with the young people were saying this is how we need it to work, or this would be good if we could see it like that. So then that kind of leads on to in your settings, what's going to work for you, and we've set it up like this because it's working for us, but it is also possible to manipulate that data and make data views, graphs that are going to suit your setting. It's a little bit of a task, but if you can kind of sketch out what it is you'd like to look like, we can go back to our IT team and say, we'd like a graph that shows this, or can filter in this way or that way. And as always with this stuff, the more of those come back to us, we build the views, and they might be interesting for another school. So we end up with a range of views that might be just for you, but it might be good for lots of schools.
Rob, while you raise that point, maybe Poppy could show us a couple of views of what the data can look like.
Yeah. So, for example, I think Rob's shown some people this before. This is a snapshot from Microsoft Power BI, and this is just different kind of ways of visualizing all of your QoL data, depending what you want to take from it. You can see breakdowns of questions and answers by term, student, parent, and yeah, we can kind of design this for you or with our IT engineers, and kind of how you want to visualize your data, and it can be put into there, and then you can use it how you would like to.
That last, what you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, we use that way of presenting that information in our recent Headlines newsletter out to families, showing what the family data from December had raised, and then we can talk to them about what we're going to put on in response to that.
And there's already, I mean, Poppy's talked about the sort of whole school data as well that she's been analysing, and I think that the targets we've spoken about are obvious. We can identify something with a student, we can set a target or provision and see whether that's worked. As interesting is the whole student data, which might tell us about trends in the school and where we need to change our provision or change the curriculum or do a particular piece of work. And we do that through it could be through our universal provision or through the residential staff picking a particular thing in the independence curriculum that we've got running alongside. So that's a really important piece to this, probably as important as the individual ones really, because we can build that into the way that we work across the school.
Just if you just hold that thought, because it just makes me think about the new Ofsted framework, or the relatively new Ofsted framework, from 2019 and with its update, but it talks about curriculum intent. And what we talk about here is that quality of life is a dynamic concept. It's forever changing. So this is a way that we can help our curriculum to reflect the ever-changing needs and issues that arise from our population. So if QoL is a dynamic concept, then to what extent can we make our curriculum dynamic in response to that? And I think that's a really powerful way of looking at what Power BI and that's whole school data or key stage data or cohort data can do for us. Sorry, Rob.
No, that's okay. And I think we don't do these things for Ofsted, but we do know they're going to ask to see what we're doing. And I think the visual way that this works is it's just great. You can see the students they're telling us what they're struggling with or what they're finding easy. They can see that we've done something about it because it's red or it's orange, and then they can track that through. So you put provision in, did it work or not? So there's a really nice kind of longitudinal work that we're doing, which you often don't get when you're just setting targets. They're kind of, it's difficult to see where they fit in and how they link up with the next thing. So in terms of that it's a really nice, that's a really nice piece of software. I think the other thing to say about the whole school or whole family data is we're just starting to be able to use that in terms of we've got a family forum where we meet the families once a half term online, and we're able to kind of think about what they're saying to us and tailor the talks or training or whatever it is we're doing, that can be taken to those meetings that we have with the parents, so that we're listening, and that's our opportunity to do that, and that's been a really positive step forward for us, is running those sessions for parents to come and talk. It's not a griping session, but it is, if people are struggling with, getting their boys off of the computer at night, we can listen to that and actually do something about it, and get someone to come and talk to them about how do you do that, what are the dangers, and that's been really well received, and had good feedback on that sort of finishing the loop on it.
Interestingly, one of the stronger themes that arose out of the December surveys was that loss of sense of community, and a lot of that was really around not being able to come into school very often, and obviously that's something we're trying to get back on track. Dean, have we got some questions coming in?
Just a quick question, it's relevant. What is your uptake like for these sessions? And Claire's asked that.
For the family forum sessions?
Yeah.
The family forum, we will have anything between sort of 12 and 20. How many have we done now? We must have done about 6 sessions, and it's actually growing the more time goes on, and I think families are seeing it as a good way of getting information. So I think
we've got 70 boys, so it gives you an idea of the number of parents.
We'd love that to be more. I think there's more that we can do to prepare parents to know that it's coming up and engage in it. But it's a developing area.
Yeah, and I think what we're trying to do is think of lots of different ways to engage with families, knowing that the time constraints they're under, we can record them, putting out newsletter information, putting stuff on the website. The animations, again, will help and provoke a bit of discussion, so we'll send that animation out, and then we can talk about QoL from any level of complexity, based around what the sort of lines of inquiry are from our families. I'm conscious that Rob's going to disappear, and the builders are getting very excited about meeting up with Rob. Our new building is so close, but it's, as everybody will know who's been involved in a building development of this scale, there's always some last minute
socket changes.
Let's leave it at that. Yeah, that need to be negotiated. So we're on with that. Any questions around the technology side of things, or that guidance that we could provide that makes that side of things easier for anyone? Just while Rob's here, because we're conscious that we're going to be reliant on Dean and Poppy otherwise, because I'm not going to be able to answer any of those questions. Anything in the chat there, Dean?
At the moment.
Well, I'm always available if anyone wants to call. Dean knows all about this as well. So one of us, we can answer questions. Poppy knows about the kind of how it looks and how what might be useful. But yeah.
Okay, cool. And yeah, if you talk to us about the sorts of views of the data that will be helpful to you, we can get those set up for you. So the Power BI automatically provides you with those, because you've been doing the analysis through Power BI. Is it quite an intuitive program? Is it a bit tricky? How did you find it?
I think so. When the surveys come in, all the data gets put in a table automatically to Power BI, and you can just select the type of graph or visual that you want, and it's just really a case of dragging and dropping. There are a few bits that we can show you how to do on how to match up so if you want parents with a certain year or term of the school, how you can connect those together. But it's pretty intuitive, and yeah, you can just choose exactly what you want from it, really, and we can also set that up for you.
Okay, thanks. Rob, I think you've just been summoned.
I have. I'm going to get my fluorescent jacket and leave you there.
Okay, thanks very much, Rob. We'll see you soon, and good luck with your sockets. Okay, so we've also been doing a couple of other little projects. Poppy, is this? Oh, this is one of them. This is something. Sorry. Poppy's going to tell you about a couple of little small-scale action research projects that we're running in school. Before we do that, just something I picked up from the SWALS conference. That's the South and West Leaders in Special Schools. It was our conference a couple of weeks ago. Andre from DFE was there. Many of you will know Andre. And we also, there's always an Ofsted flavour. there was very much a linkage between safeguarding and attendance. And obviously, safeguarding, attendance and QoL are very, very linked, because what the DFE figures show, and the link on the slide there will take you into those figures, that since COVID, school attendance has dropped. And that is absolutely a agenda item for Ofsted. But it's also, irrespective of that, it's an agenda item for us. How do we know what's going on for our young people if they're not in school? And what are the other issues that are accumulating during that time for them and for their families? And so being, you know, we all need to be very mindful of the impact of non-attendance in school. And the longer it goes on, the more difficult it is for young people to re-engage. There's a lot of information in there about it, but I cannot underplay how important that is through an Ofsted lens at the moment. So just forewarned is forearmed in that respect. As a slight aside, one of the issues that was raised at the conference was about county lines and how young people who are not engaged in education can get involved in gang culture, county lines. And if you want anybody to come and speak to your staff or your students or your families about anything to this, please have a look at the website for a charity called St Giles, which is based in London. And they do some brilliant work about helping raise awareness to young people and everybody about how people can slip into that way of life. And at the conference, they brought the two people, somebody who works there and somebody who's an ex-offender, and he talked about his life, his lived experience of being caught up in that county lines world of selling drugs, robbery, prison, and the impact that it's had on his life, and the people that he knew and knows and his family. Very powerful stuff. But there's definitely a linkage between young people who are not in school and how they slip into this. From the age of about 10 upwards, you know, it's frightening stuff. So St Giles charity, they were really, really brilliant speakers, and I can't recommend them highly enough. Okay, so that's QoL, safeguarding attendance. And I think we need to be thinking about all of these issues as related to QoL. You know, if you've got safeguarding issues going on, that has an impact on your quality of life. If you're not attending school, there's an impact on your quality of life and your family's quality of life. So we cannot separate these things out. And I think it's really important that we try, for our staff's benefit and for our family's benefit, to help them understand why these things are not standalone. They're all part and parcel of the bigger picture. We're talking about young people, we're talking about their families, and all the issues that are pervasive around their day-to-day living. Okay, Poppy, what else have you been up to? My goodness, she's been busy. She's only been here since January.
Okay, so I'm going to introduce you just briefly to the kind of first external project that we've been working on. And this is looking at the whole school data for students and families since when we started to collect data, or at least have it on a database anyway. So the first kind of project we're working on, which we're going to submit to Autism Europe, is looking at QoL data trajectories for both students and families across time. And this is to identify the kind of impact of replacement at SBS has had on students and families, and whether we found anything significant in this, and then also following up with students to see new students who are just joining, and then after their first couple of terms to see what kind of a difference it's made, and areas they feel that it's really helped, and maybe things that they're still struggling with as well.
And so, I think it's a particular interest to lots of us being able to justify the benefits of school, And it's reassuring for families to be able to see it and to be able to see that journey over time. Because what we do know is that, certainly here, we talk to many families about what life is like pre-admission here. And I'm sure you're all in the same sort of boat here. you know, there are lots of pressures on families. It may be to do with failed school placements, it may be to do with tribunals, it may be to do with, you know, the dynamics of what's going on at home and the benefits of a residential placement. From family's point of view, you know, all the siblings' point of view, from the young person's point of view. So we want to try and capture that, what that looks and feels like before they come to school, and then how that improves over time, but also how those issues change over time. And is there any commonality around the issues pre-admission, and then during that transition phase as they're bedding in, and how long does that sort of process take, and how do the issues change over time? So that's that's the first one we're doing, and as Poppy says, we're going to try and submit that to Autism Europe.
I think also it's important with this kind of research and within the schools as well, and target setting and everything, is that if you're using the QoL framework that we are, part A and part B are very separate. Part A is looking at general self-perception of QoL, so how the student or family member perceives their general quality of life. And the second part is really designed to be autism specific, and so how much those symptoms have an impact. And so it's quite useful to look at those things separately, because there'll be definitely different triggers or themes around those, and therefore different things that we can put in place to mitigate any difficulties.
And if any of your schools are just about to start your QoL journey, or you're at a particular point, and you would like to run a study like this, please get in touch, because again, we're sharing this with you because it may be something that's of value to you in your school.
Yeah, and I think
Poppy's happy to talk to you,
yeah,
aren't you?
Yeah, also, I mean, what we'd kind of love to do ultimately is have as much data as possible and pull together the data from multiple schools that we're using the similar surveys, because then, you know, more data, we can have more insight. And of course, it will be anonymised, and there would be ethics and consent along with that. But yeah, that ultimately we'd love to collaborate or have as much input as possible from other schools.
So if you're interested, ping us an email or put your information in the chat, and we can help talk you through that process and what it is we're doing, and how we're managing the information. There's another one?
These are just, yeah.
Oh, come on.
Well, these are what we're kind of hoping to do next. So
yeah,
along with our COVID, looking at our COVID whole school report in terms of QoL and how QoL has changed pre and post COVID, and what implementations we put in place to kind of help the running of the school, and how this will change with students being studying from home and the impact of that. And then I think you also wanted to look at key stage and residential placements. Yes,
I think I know a number of schools in the network have residential options, and certainly one of the things that we're interested in, you know, has the impact been greater for those young people who are normally resident with us and therefore have had a bigger change in circumstance? What's been the impact on those families as a result of that? And how do we adjust what we do to support that? Hopefully we're through the worst of COVID, although actually we've got our highest numbers ever this week here, but hopefully it's on its way out. But there are always lessons to be learned. We need to be prepared for anything next time, but there may be some aspects of practice that we've done over the COVID time that, you know, we'll carry on doing. And so how we work with our students, and whether there are issues at different ages that we need to be mindful of. So we're looking at this project pre-COVID, during COVID, and hopefully what we can soon call post-COVID, as things get back to normal, and get a sense of how our QoL data has helped us navigate that journey, because there's lots of things that we will all have done during that time, and it's quite helpful to match that against the actual data. If anybody's interested in collaborating on that project, we'd love to hear from them. Okay. Dee, have we got any questions yet?
No, but if anyone wants to put their hand up and use their microphone and speak to us, by all means do. You don't just have to use the chat.
Yeah. We don't want people to be shy. We're happy to take any questions. Tricky ones Poppy and Dean will answer. Okay. Anything there yet or not? Okay, well, plenty of food for thought, hopefully. I'm going to bring Claire in from Demeter House in a mo, because I think this is a really important issue that we're going to cover next. And that is about, we know that many schools have a mixed population in terms of cognition, in terms of communication ability. We know that some schools just have a very narrow population, but it's very different to the one we have here. So one of the things that we acknowledged at the outset was very much that the survey tool that we use here is not going to be suitable for everybody. And I know that there's a number of schools that have been working on alternative survey tools, either developing their own or looking around to find anything that would. The important thing to know is that can be assimilated within the IT system, so that your data, however many questions you've got, they will be able to, that will be able to be analysed in the same way as our data is. And we've spoken to Blue Planet about that. So if you're working on a survey, and it'd be helpful to hear, maybe through the chat or through discussion, how many schools are working on an alternative survey or have developed one.
That's right,
That'd be really helpful, because we want to put people together so that we're, you know, the whole point of the network is that we're building friendships within the network so that people can work collectively, collaboratively on issues that are important to you as a group that maybe 3, 4, 2, whatever number of schools rather than the whole network. And hopefully when we come to future network meetings, we'll be able to do a talk to us a little bit about the survey tool that you've been working on. Hopefully Claire's there.
Yeah, I am. I've got a rogue mouse that doesn't seem to want to work my computer. So, love the whole QoL framework. Totally loved it. First time Melissa, our head teacher, showed me it. And then obviously hearing Kieran speak at various conferences that we've been to. But here at Demeter, we work around 6 provision teams. So our whole ethos is set around SAND, pastoral, learning, welfare, wellbeing and conduct. So those are the 6 key provision areas that we work with. But while we wanted to introduce the QoL concept, we agreed that we should adapt the questions to fit in with our provision areas. So what we've suggested is a selection of, say, 5 questions from each of our 6 key provision areas, takes with it obviously 30, and then we've got 10 spare ones that could be focused because we're split across 2 sites. We have an upper school site and a lower school site. So I think in those 10 could be focused to either mainly the primary end or the upper school end, whichever worked best. So then the results would give us a better idea of which areas to focus on and which areas got more concerns. So we already have a key worker system in place, and we have done for a number of years, and it does work really well. So every child's allocated their key worker on entrance to school, and that's their key person to speak to, and it's the direct link between home and school as well, and to build up those relationships where ordinarily in a mainstream school or a bigger setting you wouldn't get that sort of one-to-one personal care. So after hearing the concerns from yourself and others about getting the results of the questionnaires in, you know, some parents either haven't got time, there are the priorities. It's like a 5-week timetable.
We lost you for a second there. I'm not sure if there's anything with your mic there, Claire, sorry.
Right, sorry, can you hear me now? We've got like a 5-week timetable in place, so we'll roll out the questionnaires. Then we've got a specific set length of time before key workers will either send home a message or give a ring home to see if everything's all right, to give them a reminder. And then the week leading up to progress review day, we're going to give the key workers the opportunity to ring home, and even if parents feel the need to, they can fill the questionnaire in over the phone with a key worker. So hopefully it'll narrow the gap of the non-returners, shall we say, and broaden what we get back. So fingers crossed, it'll eliminate the non-returners and increase the numbers a little bit. But hopefully you guys will be able to put our questions into your fabulous tech guy and get with the same results and the same fancy graphs and things, because I can't do that.
But Claire, that's brilliant, and we'll certainly chat about how we can get that set up for you from an IT perspective. How close is that completed, that piece of work, or are you still refining your questions?
Refining the questions. We have a provision teams meeting tomorrow afternoon, so hopefully I'll be able to thrash it out with the rest of the teams, and we should have it finalised to go by Easter. So it'll be like that's the first half term that it goes out.
Okay.
Fingers crossed.
That's fantastic. Once you've thrashed you're not thrashing your team, you're thrashing out the questions. Once you've done that piece of work, would you be happy to share those questions with everybody in the network?
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic.
Absolutely.
So we'll if you send them to me when they're ready, we'll send them out with the maybe with the agenda for the next network meeting. Good chance to plug that. I'm glad you reminded me. March 22nd, put the date in your diary. And we'll talk about a bit more about that one in a moment. But we'll come back to you, Claire, if you don't mind, in that meeting and get a sense of where you're up to. Jean, have we got anybody else who's working on any surveys that's in the chat who might want to collaborate with Claire?
No questions or comments at the moment.
Nothing at the moment. Okay. Well, if you keep us up to date, Claire, one of the things I will say is we need to make sure that the questions are as refined as you want them to be before we upload them to the software, because you want to be able to make sure that you're comparing like with like when you're doing your surveys.
Yeah. If
you're doing them every term. Are you doing them every term, your surveys, or half term, or
termly?
Every term. Okay. So, and you've got a timeline that you say you've developed as well over a 5-week period. Yeah.
So it gives the key workers, the questionnaires will go out, and the key workers will do a catch-up call to just remind you gently the nicey approach. And then a week prior to our progress review days, key workers will be able to ring home and hopefully get reviews over the telephone for those who haven't returned them, and it'll shorten or eliminate slightly the non-returners, so it'll increase the data a little bit.
Fantastic. And I'm sure Claire's happy to share that timeline with everybody so people can see there's an alternative timeline to the one we've drawn up. And that's the whole basis of the network, is about going, our timeline works well here, Claire's works well in her environment, what's going to work well for you? But if you've got a couple of models there, then that may be more helpful than starting with a blank piece of paper. Brilliant.
Oh, we've got a comment.
Oh, we've got a comment.
Yeah, from Leslie. She says, it's really interesting and thank you for sharing. And they've developed 2 further versions of the questionnaire as part of differentiation for their students, and they've signed up for the Pi but not actually accessed it yet.
Oh, right. Okay, so there's another thing. So there's Leslie. Is Leslie there and happy just to say a couple of words about those surveys? Let's put you on the spot, Leslie. Sorry about that.
Hi.
Hi. Nice to see you again. Are you happy just to give a quick update, Leslie?
Well, yes. We've just developed 2 because of the range of our students. So we've got a questionnaire where we've adapted it to support understanding, and then a further questionnaire where we've got the use of symbols to be able to support some of our children that maybe don't have the language to be able to share as much information verbally. So we've kind of adapted that, and we're just trialing those at the moment, but we've not actually accessed Pi, and we're doing our own sort of mini action research project as well, linked to COVID and various different things that we've kind of got from our information that we've got from our data from tutorials over the course of sort of the last however long.
Fantastic. And how far on are you with your COVID project?
How far are we, Lynn? I've got my colleague Lynn sitting next to me. We've got the data up. We've just pulling all the data together, collating the data at the moment. So then we've found some quite interesting themes linked to it. And when we do, I think Claire talked about doing hers over their 5 areas. We've got our drivers for our curriculum. So we've adapted the how we record our data linked to our drivers for our curriculum as well. If that
Brilliant. That's fantastic. And you're happy to share those with us, Leslie?
When we finished it all.
When you finished them.
When I feel like my brain can concentrate on it, yes.
But that's great. So, you know, we're getting more and more valuable information to share between the network, and you know, that's exactly what it's about. And maybe we'll be able to ask you how you're getting on with your COVID project in March.
Yeah.
Just informally, no big pressure.
No pressure.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Leslie. Anybody else got any updates or anything they want to share at this point? Dean, anything in the chat or any hands up for any questions? Okay.
Oh, we've got a hand up.
Oh, we've got a hand up.
Carl.
Carl. Hi, Carl.
Hi. My name's Carl.
First network meeting, isn't it, Carl?
It is my first network meeting. You very graciously gave me some of your time to sort of give me a quality of life overview. And we are really interested here at Kelford School. We're a severe learning disabilities school, but definitely interested in at least aspects of the quality of life framework. Some of the things Leslie was just saying interested me, because I think our main barrier to implementation is capturing that pupil voice, because a lot of our learners are pre-verbal and have limited cognitive understanding. We follow a PBS approach, and we're really trying to build quality of life into our curriculum as we redesign it. So I'm really interested in networking with anyone who is in a similar position or feels that they might have some approaches to adapting the questionnaire in a way that we can capture pupil voice for those sort of pupils.
Brilliant. Leslie, are you happy to link with Carl on that? I can send an email that links them together. Brilliant.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Chats, yeah, no problem.
Thank you, Leslie. That'd be really nice. Thank you.
Okay.
Fantastic. If anybody else wants a link up with either Claire or Leslie, I'm very generously offering to put people. I'm doing a matchmaking service this morning. We'll put people together because, again, that's really, really helpful. So that's great to see Carl and Leslie joining forces on that one.
Joe, want to say something?
Joe, something on your mind, Joe?
Hi, yes, I was just starting to type, but now I can speak. Thanks, everyone. Hi, Carl. I just wanted to offer you. I'd be very happy to have a chat about. I can give you the overview of our 7 schools within National Autistic Society, because each of them are different and have a different cohort. So I can talk to you about, if it's useful, about how they've adapted the framework to suit their setting. So let me know. I'll put my email in the chat in case you want to get in touch as well.
That's very kind, Joe. Thanks very much. Just in terms of a general update, Joe, what's going on NAS-wise in terms of survey development and, just for, a quick, simple overview.
Sure. Yeah, so we've developed, I think Joe Neal's on the call as well, and Joe has worked with the therapy teams in each school to develop some materials that can be used. So some differentiated questionnaires, so symbol format, word format. So I can share those, but we are very much just trialing them. So Joe, do you want to add anything? I think she's with us.
Yes. Hi. Thanks. Hang on. I'll just put my camera on. Yeah, so just kind of an overview for people. You see me? Probably not.
There we are. Yeah.
See me? Okay. So quite a few months ago, the speech and language therapists all got together in our respective different schools, because all of us have different cohorts. We all came up with an agreed I suppose, agreed headlines which follow the domains of the quality of life framework, but they're much more simplified. So things like food, hobbies, my friends, my family, etc., etc. And we are going to use those. We're going to incorporate. We're completely going to re-look at our annual review process. In particular, the section A. So it's all going to be, I suppose, enmeshed together. We're looking at much more interactive presentations in terms of like PowerPoints. For those of our young people who aren't actually using the spoken word, we've got loads of lovely photographs. This is what I really enjoy doing, etc. So yeah, I mean, we are at different, I suppose, stages of the journey, but we are all committed to ensuring that pupil voice and that pupil participation is valid and not tokenistic. So we're yeah. I mean, I Joe's got a copy of my the paper that I sort of wrote for principal guidance, but all of our speech therapists have been very proactive in devising that discussion paper, really.
I guess, Joe. Sorry, Karen.
No, that's brilliant, and I wonder if I could invite you to say a bit more on that at the next network meeting.
I'll be happy to.
I guess, Joe, is it correct though that we're not at a stage yet where we can be using that in terms of data, where what we're doing is we're taking that information on an individual basis and feeding it into annual reviews and tracking it via that. So we are tracking it, but we're not able to do the kind of collation and analysis that you are, Kieran, feeding into whole school issues. We're much more reliant on leadership teams in each school extracting that information and noticing trends rather than the data telling us the trends, if you like.
Yeah.
Fantastic. But I mean, this is great, isn't it? Because this is different organisations, big and small, taking the concept of QoL and making it work at a pace that suits you, and reflecting the context that you're working in with your competing priorities, because we've all got competing priorities, and going, this is what we can cope with at the minute, this is what we're going to be putting into our school improvement plan, this is where our focus is for this term, for this year, over the coming years, and then looking at this as a journey about how does this evolve, and it's about bringing people in your organisation with you, seeing where the value is, and getting people excited about it and thinking, okay, how can we build on this? What next? What next? And taking people, getting people enthused about the benefits of this. And what we do know is everybody who comes to work in our organisations, that's what they want to see. So, the strength of it comes from everybody feeling that they've got a voice in the evolution of QoL in your organisation.
Actually, Kieran, you just at the very beginning of this morning's meeting, you gave me a brilliant idea in terms of really ensuring that our young people are engaged from the very start of their journey to our schools within the NAS. I'm thinking now, we could really put together a very accessible PowerPoint or equivalent presentation that would almost be pupil induction. We're always into staff induction. Let's think about the pupil induction from the very start. This is our safeguarding procedure. These are some of the lovely things that you're going to be able to do whilst you're here. One of our teachers down at our hub, which is our 16 to 19 provision, is in the throes of making some wonderful films of our young people's perspective, different perspective, so that they're actually saying now how they feel they've come along their sort of educational journey and how different a specialist school is to their experiences in mainstream education, which haven't always been positive. And I thought actually to combine that personal perspective and then some, bread and butter type stuff about, right, this is what you'll be doing and this is who you need to go to if you've got a problem, etc., would be a great package to put together.
It most certainly would, and what a wonderful project, and that's actually one that all of us as schools could benefit from. I'm sure there's gaps in all our practice around that. And it can never be rich enough, can it? Something like that. So I think that's a lovely idea, and it's also a lovely way of looking at sort of, you know, how student voice can help other students and give them that sense of, you know, looking after the next generation of students who are coming into your school. And it promotes that nurturing culture that we're trying to create here. Fabulous. That's really brilliant, Joe. We'll pick up on that one again, because I think there'll be a lot of people interested in maybe forming a little group around that, and whether we do it collectively or everybody does their own thing and pools their ideas, we can think around that. But I think really nice idea. Thank you very much for sharing.
Thank you.
Have we any other hands up at the minute, Dean? Okay, I will make a little summary of what we've covered this morning. Obviously, the recording will be available for everybody in the YouTube zone, whatever you call it, and we'll make a few notes as we put the next agenda for the meeting on the 22nd. Somebody mentioned the pie. Dean is always at hand to set people up with their pies. Aren't you, Dean?
I'm always available for a pie. I do like a pie.
Yeah, it makes Dean's day, I've got to say, if somebody gets in touch and says, can you help me with a pie? Remember that the pie is to help you with your planning, implementation and evaluation. It's a Microsoft application, it's Microsoft Planner, and it's a really helpful way of getting a sense of what you need to do and a bit of a running order, as well as the resources that are there to support your implementation and introduction of QoL into your organisation. If you've got any questions about the pie, if you want to know how much Dean loves the pie, just get in touch with him. dmulder@swaycliffepark.co.uk is the place to go for that. Anything else you want to say about the pie? Dean, how long does it take to set a pie up?
It doesn't take me very long at all, and if you get in contact with me, I can give you access to the pie quite quickly, and I can help you to get access to it, and I can talk you through how it works as well.
It's a beautiful process, Dean. That's all I can say. Okay, where are we up to? There's the agenda. QoL for staff wellbeing. We talked about this last time round, and we gathered some ideas about what are we all doing for the well-being and the QoL of our staff. Again, it's something we all should be doing and are doing, always in different ways in our different schools, and we're happy to share. It's also a big Ofsted agenda item, but you know, unless our staff feel well valued, understand where their contribution fits within the organisation, can feel the progress they're making, see the value of working in our organisations, then we're not going to get the best out of everybody. And we also know that this is a really difficult recruitment market at the moment. So we need to be doing what we can to invest in our staff, to help people feel on top of their game every single day. One of the things that we're doing, oh my goodness, there's a lot of information on that, but that's there for you. We're doing a staff wellbeing survey, which I'm sure many of you are doing. The one we're using is from the Anna Freud Centre. And we've chosen that one because it's a national project. It allows us to compare our data with other schools, similar schools, bigger schools, smaller schools, but it allows us to do that so that we get a sense of, you know, are the issues in our school similar to those in other schools? Are we about where we think we might be in terms of staff well-being and how people are feeling about school? Are we above that line? Are we below that line? And what might be the contextualized data around that? Helps us just to keep tabs on how everybody is. So we're going to be introducing, well, we've introduced this now. We've given people a certain amount of time to look into it. There's information on the slide here which everybody will have in case that's something that you're mulling over at the minute and thinking about how to go about this, this might be an avenue that you want to pursue. But the idea that it's sort of somebody else again is looking at the data analysis independently and then giving you that benchmarking data, I think that adds a lot of reassurance and rigor to the process. And then you can think about what it is you can do and have whole school discussions about how is everybody feeling, different groups of staff. We know that in our schools, we've got many groups of staff, different shift patterns, different part-time people, full-time people, residential staff, therapists, admin staff, ground staff, teachers, support assistants, a whole range of different people who work in our organisations. How do we make sure none of our groups are getting left behind or feeling isolated? So really important stuff there. Don't know if that throws up any questions for anybody, or anybody's got anything else that they want to offer in either with a hand up or into the chat. Dean, has that got anybody's juices going in terms of wanting to join the conversation here?
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment. Okay, we'll give you an update at the next one about staff wellbeing, and we're working on a bit of a framework about how that looks, a sort of QoL for staff. So we've got our students and our families. What does it look like for staff? Because I think in terms of showing how we're going to take care of what's probably between 70 and 85% of our budget at any one time, really important that we look after that. We look after our buildings, we look after the food we serve, but actually this is the biggest spend in money. And in terms of our staff being happy, that's really important, because without that, we're not going to be able to deliver on an agenda for families and for students. Okay. Anybody who's got anything about that or wants to talk about that at a future QoL network meeting, for example, the one on March the 22nd, we'd be very happy to hear from you. Okay, there was something else on that slide, wasn't there, about school improvement planning, I think? There wasn't? Ah, there was this. Ah, it's a good job Poppy's here to keep you right, because otherwise goodness knows where we'd end up. So, on the agenda, we had school improvement planning. And this is just to whet your appetite, because we need you to come back for more next time round. So we're going to make more of a feature of this, either in the next meeting or the one after that. But I've talked to, some of you will know that we've got obviously the framework here, which tells us how we work with our students and our families. We've talked about QoL for staff. We've also got a bit of an organisational framework that might be helpful as well, and we'll give you some examples next time round. But I'll take you back to the work of David Bell, which talked about, remember we talked about highly reliable organisations, how we talked about the common language and the common framework, and how those were some of the underpinnings behind the framework that's behind me. So we've applied those principles around our school improvement planning, around our meeting agendas, around how we write our policies, how we write our job descriptions, how we look at school improvement planning and whole school self-evaluation. And those are the 4 headings that we use to underpin that. And we'll show you some illustrations of that at the next meeting. But I think it's quite helpful to join all these processes up so that culturally, organisationally, we're trying to get all the dots to join together. One of the things that we do know is that schools are complicated organisations. And if you're coming into a school from a non-school background, if you've worked in a different type of environment, if you've worked in a mainstream school, they're very different to how our schools operate. We are generally very staff heavy with those different disciplines. We need to find ways to help bring all those different processes together. And you think, we've got target setting, we've got annual reviews, we've got end of term reports, we've got LAC reviews, we've got self-evaluation, we've got all the issues around governance, we've got all the progress day meetings, we've got so many different processes that go on a daily, weekly, half-termly, termly, annual basis. What can we do that gives commonality to the structure and the language that helps people to see how these things fit together? My little reflection this morning about not seeing attendance, safeguarding and QoL as separate issues. And actually what we want to do is bring all of these things together so people can see how all of our school processes line up with each other and support each other and inform each other. And we want to find ways of making sure that we're focusing on the right information and the right data. What are we presenting to governors? What are we presenting through our staff meetings? How are we using that to fix on the bottom line of our framework to influence curriculum, operational and strategic planning? And so this is a way, this is a framework that allows us to do that, making sure that we're truly reflecting practice in each of the areas that we're thinking about, how we're working with other people, how we're outward looking. You in the network help us to improve the practice that we have here. That goes without saying. Hopefully that goes around within the network as well. And you'll have other partners that you work with who help you improve on the work that you're doing. And let's make sure that we reflect that in the information we bring into school and the information that we integrate within our policy and practice on a daily basis. So we'll talk a bit more about that next time with some examples about how that all knits together. And we'll try and produce some graphics. I'm looking at Poppy here because she's great at that, to be able to illustrate how that works. Okay, so I'm going to start wrapping up in a moment because we've done an hour and 20 minutes, and that's quite a lot of time. There's been a lot of information in there. There's been some really great sharing. We've talked about a couple of the projects that we're ongoing with. We're going to also start working on a project for ex-students and ex-families and seeing what's the impact of QoL after somebody leaves and plotting that trajectory over time as well. And we'll start bringing that one into conversation. Really want to hear about what's going on in your schools. And remember that this agenda is your agenda. And I'd far rather be handing over the reins of the meeting to other people. So please, if you've got something to share, if you want to provoke some questions, if you want a networking session, if you want to create some breakout rooms to look at specific aspects of practice, we can start to build that in. But we do want to try and actually have a live meeting. Now, I did mention in the last network newsletter that I'm not sure our lovely new building is going to be ready for next March. I'm looking at it out the window now and I can see Rob and Rob in their high-vis jackets chatting to the builders. Hopefully that's going to speed things up, not slow things down. But I think we're probably going to have to count ourselves out of hosting the March meeting. If anybody would like to offer to host a meeting, and we'll help out with the organisation and any associated costs with that, please let us know, and we'll see if that appeals. And we might be able to do a joint live with a link up through Teams as well. So if anybody would like to host, we'd absolutely love to hear from you. It'd be so much better if we can be live, and then we'll get back on track here next term when all our new buildings are up and running. But I think we're just going to run short on time to be able to move everybody into our new building and then release the other space that we need. So we'll probably round up there. Dean, are there any last thoughts that you've had, Pi related or anything else?
No, but just to bring it back a little bit, Arena did mention when talking about the staff quality of life. They're in their NAS school, they're piloting something similar, and it's from 2 sections of the AFC tool, and staff have welcomed the initiative.
Excellent. If the details of that could be shared either through the chat or in an email to me, I'll happily pass that round in the next newsletter.
Hi.
Oh.
Can you? Hello. Hi.
Marina, lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you. Lovely to see. Thank you very much. Yes. It is the Anna Freud. From the Anna Freud Center. So it is the well-being questionnaire, the perceived level of stress, and we had a discussion. So we presented to staff with a short presentation. That was the initiative, to look at how the information that comes back can help us to work collaboratively and to look at different initiatives in supporting well-being of staff. Because if we have, obviously, and you mentioned about staff retention, if they are well, if they are confident in what they are doing, clearly that will have an impact in the students. So it's been well received, and we are in the process of looking and analysing the responses, which then will have obviously an impetus in thinking about what sort of workshop focus group we may have to look at how improving the well-being of staff in general. So yeah, that's been piloted in one of the schools, and the intention is that if it works well, if it gives us some useful information, then it will be cascaded to other Natural Tissue Society schools. So happy to share in the future how that progresses.
Marina, that's fabulous. Thanks very much and good luck with that. Really interested to hear you're on that journey. We look forward to hearing the updates.
Thank you.
So there'll be lessons there for all of us. Thanks very much. Dean, have we got any other questions or issues raised or hands up?
No.
Maybe it's all that talk of pie that people are getting hungry. Poppy, anything else that you think we need to share today?
Not that I can think of. Just if you want to get involved with any of the collaborations or data analysis or projects, then you can email me. So deepgrimes@swaycliffepark.co.uk.
pgrimes@swaycliffepark.co.uk. Dean, can we put that in the chat for everybody?
Yeah.
There we go. There's no escape now, Poppy. Okay, fantastic. Well, look, lovely to see everybody. If you've got items for a newsletter, items for the next agenda, let us know. March 22nd, if you want to host it, fantastic. We'd love to hear from you and we'll help out with that. And we will start putting together any of the points raised this morning to go in the next newsletter. Okay, happy half term to those who are breaking up on Friday. I see you smiling there, Claire. To those of us who are carrying on working next week, good on us. We've got our reward to come when you'll be back at school. Okay, thanks very much, everyone. Lovely to see you all. Hope it's been good, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye from all of us here. Thanks very much.
Bye, everyone.